I would consider myself I've ridden 50,000 miles on the road on a motorcycle on the actual street. A lot of people have ridden a heck of a lot more, but I have a decent amount of experience, and those bikes are far from safe. Again, if it's in the right hands of someone who respects the power and just wants to have that type of bike, then you'll be fine. But you know, why would you want to buy a bike that you can only use 30% of the power? It just seems like overkill, you know. Why would you do it? If you buy that bike, that means that you want to use that power at some point. And when you do open that throttle up at some point, you're going to increase your chances of being severely injured or in a lot of trouble with the law. I remember getting on it, and it was just insane. Again, I had only ridden a 600, and I got on a full-fledged 100, you know, 1000cc super sport, right? So it's tuned completely different. It's the full-blown race, you know, ZX10. I think it was a 2006 ZX10R, and it was fast. So those would be the bikes that I would start out on. And I'll tell you, you know, these topics tend to just overlap as far as what bikes you should kind of start off with and what bikes you should avoid. But you really can find a great secondhand bike, or bike that's, you know, 10 to 15 years old, or even 5 years old. You can really get a great deal on those on Craigslist or on Facebook. There is a huge, you know, a lot of people that buy motorcycles, you know, maybe they buy them new and then they never really ride them. You know, they ride them a little bit, but let's face it, if you're going to ride a motorcycle, you have to really want to do it. A lot of people just think it's cool to have one and to ride it on like really sunny days. So they maybe do 1,000 miles a year, right? Which is nothing. You know, we did 2,000, me and my brother did 2,000 miles in 5 days on a motorcycle. And there's people that'll do 1,000 miles in a day. So these things are built well, and, you know, why go buy something brand new for $10,000 to $15,000 when you could get, anyone can get a motorcycle for $2,000. I think a really totally serviceable, nice motorcycle. Now you're not gonna get a Harley Davidson for that. So if you want a Harley Davidson, you're gonna have to pay for it. But other than that, a 10-year-old Yamaha, a 10-year-old Suzuki, a 10-year-old Kawasaki, a 10-year-old Honda, a 20-year-old BMW. My BMW that I got was for $2,000. It had 19,000 miles on it, and it's a totally, you know, top of the line big cruiser that you could go to New York on it tomorrow. I mean, those things consistently do well over 100,000 miles with basically no maintenance. Shaft driven, huge fairing, adjustable windscreen, full saddlebags for 2 G's. Seriously, if you guys doubt me, just if you watch this video, you're like, hey, I live in Oregon, or I live in Atlanta, or I live in wherever. I'll go on Craigslist and I'll find you stuff that has probably around 10 to 15,000 miles on the bike, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. That's a totally great bike for like less than $2,000, and that could last you 10 years easily, if not more. The bike won't wear out. You'll get tired of the bike before the bike gives out. Just look at my Yamaha. I've made several videos on that. It had I bought it for $2,800 when it was 5 or 6 years old, and so $2,800 for that bike. It was 6 years old, and it had under 9,000 miles on it when I got it, and it basically looks the same now, and it has over 36,000 miles now. So there you go. And most people that, if they owned that bike, they'd probably say, oh, you know, I want to sell it because I want to get something else. Because people just get tired of stuff. They want something different. You know, that's why so many marriages end in divorce. You don't have to divorce your motorcycle, you can just sell it, right? But a lot of people get married to someone and they just get tired of them, or they get sick of living with them, and so it ends in divorce. And that's true with anything. I mean, if you ride the same bike every single day, it's gonna feel very normal, and you probably would have a lot more fun if you rode something different, just because it's a different experience, right? Not so much that it's a bad bike or that the bike's underpowered or overpowered or whatever, but your mind is stimulated in a different way when you're using when you're on a different bike. I mean, I was riding that BMW I had for 6 months probably, and I didn't ride my little Yamaha for the whole time. And then I got back on my Yamaha and I was like, wow, this just feels totally different. It was so small and maneuverable, and the power at first felt very fast. I was like, wow, this thing is fast. Because what I had been riding for the past 6 to 9 months was a total dog. It's just a huge BMW that is built for, you know, just kind of cruising. Do need to get gas. I think I'm gonna get it here. If it's cheap, yeah, it's pretty cheap here. I'm gonna grab it here. Might as well get it here. Oh shit, I don't know if you can even go this way. I'm gonna have to do a U-turn. That's alright. We'll ride a little bit more this way than turn around. I don't think I've ever been on this road. Actually, you know what? I think I have. There's not a lot of roads around here I haven't been on. Well, here we go. That was almost 80 miles an hour, and that felt pretty fast because this bike doesn't really have a fairing, and the power delivery is in a, you know, it just that feels kind of fast, and you're on a back road, so you're not on a freeway here. So going close to 80 miles an hour feels pretty fast, and that's about as fast as this bike will go. Once you start going past 80, I mean, I think it'll do 100. It'll probably do 110, but you really have to stress it out in 5th gear to get there. This is a 5-speed. I think the high school's around here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am. I don't know. Is that the high school right there? No. And really, motorcycles here in the United States are very recreational. There's a very small percentage of people that ride motorcycles as their primary transportation. Part of it is just because of the distances that you're required to go, and the weather. If you go to a country, like my brother went to Vietnam and parts in Asia, Thailand, and the majority of everything there is little mopeds or motorcycles or scooters. Because they're cheaper, they're more affordable for the people there. But you see people with their whole life life savings, I mean, everything they own is like on the motorcycle. They got the husband, the wife, their 2 kids. They got, you know, they're basically, their whole business is stacked up on the back of a moped. It's, you know, he was like, hey man, it's, I haven't been there, but he's like, hey, it's really, you'd have to kind of see this stuff to believe it. It's crazy, right? Because coming from the United States, that's just, you don't see that. You rarely see motorcycles here. Even on a nice day, like I say, there's maybe 5% of traffic on a nice summer day as a motorcycle, whereas it's probably at least 50 to 60% motorcycles in those countries, maybe more. I mean, it's basically just a bunch of small mopeds, because they don't have to go long distances. They all live in, you know, within the city. There's a high population within the city, and there's nowhere to park them. So that's why it's a little bit different there. But you do see guys that, I always say this, I think the most serious people that ride motorcycles are BMWs, the BMW owners, because those guys are the guys that they ride rain or shine, you know, sun or snow. They got the full gear on. You know what I'm talking about. They got the full heated gear, the full like high vis yellow or orange, you know, pantsuit, and right, you know, the newer ones, and even my bike, it comes with ports for like heated gear and heated grips and stuff. So they rock that all year round, and that's their like main transportation. And those guys are pretty legit.